Hello everyone, welcome to the theory class. Today we're going to be covering lesson 30, and before we get started I want to give you an evaluation covering lesson 29. All right, here we go. Ready? Number 1, figure. Let's figure out what to do. Number 2, monument. We went and visited the monument. Number 3, comment. Did they make a comment? Number 4, sneak. Don't sneak around. Number 5, foment. That means like to incite. They will foment a riot if they get the chance. Number 6, ornament. Put the ornament up high. Number 7, witness. I was a witness to the accident. Number 8, prompt. I need your prompt attention. Number 9, attempt. We will attempt to do the task. Number 10, smidgen. That is just a smidgen too much. Number 11, sneeze. Cover your mouth when you sneeze. Number 12, pavement. Walk on the pavement. Number 13, small. That is a small dog. Number 14, balance. You need to balance on the ball. Number 15, tempt. Don't tempt her. All right, let's take a look at those on our board, see how you did. Number 1 is the brief figure, which is initial F, final G. Make sure you don't write it as fig, otherwise it would conflict with fig. A lot of people tend to do that. Number 2, monument, M-O-N, come back for long U-M-T, monument. Number 3, comment, K-O-M-T, all in one stroke. Number 4, sneak, S-N-A-E-K. Number 5, foment, F, long O-M-T, all in one stroke. Number 6, ornament. There's 2 ways you can write that. Either long O-R-N, come back for A-M-T, or you can write it as long O-R-N, come back for just final M-T by itself. Okay, number 7, the brief witness, initial W, final N-S. Number 8, prompt, P-R-O-M-T. Number 9, attempt, A, come back for T-E-M-T. Number 10, smidgen, S-M, short I, final J, come back for E-N. Number 11, sneeze, S-N, long E-Z. Number 12, pavement, P, long A, final V, come back for final M-T. Number 13, small, S-M, broad A-L, small. Number 14, balance, the brief balance, B-A-L-S. Number 15, tempt, T-E, in one stroke. If you struggled with any of those, just go back and practice them before you start this new lesson. We're going to be covering lesson 30 today. Okay, and today's lesson is covering the medial vowel. All right, so I'm going to read you some rules here, okay? An unaccented vowel in the middle of a familiar word may be omitted if it saves a stroke. For example, write hesitate as hes-tate. So what we're doing is we're leaving out the I in the middle instead of coming back, instead of writing H, E-Z, coming back for I, and then coming back for T, long A-T. We're taking out the I in the middle and just writing H-E-Z, hes, come back for T, long A-T. So you're dropping that middle vowel, which saves a stroke. So you're just writing hesitate. The same with imitate. We're writing imitate. So this is also referred to as squeezing the words together. But you also must have a readable outline, very important, okay? So you always want to be able to make sure you can read it, all right? So let's go over some of these words. And at first it might seem a little odd, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes, okay? I promise. So the first one is expenditure. So we're writing expenditure, okay? Let's look at the second word, circulate. We're dropping the U there. And if it helps you, you can underline or highlight that middle vowel so that it shows up. So we're writing circulate as circ-late. Line 2, isolate. We're dropping the O there, ice-late. Then we have evaporate. We're dropping that O in the middle, evaporate. Notice that we use a long E in the beginning of that word so it doesn't conflict with he. Then we've got luminous. We're dropping the I. We're writing luminous. Medicine. Again, dropping the I. If it helps you, highlight it or underline it, whatever it is that will help you. We're writing medicine. Then we've got benefit. Benefit. Imitate. Imitate. Reputation. Reputation. Minimal, minimal. Speculate, speculate. Adequate, adequate. And notice that's written as AD, come back for KWAT. Okay, because of the spelling there, adequate. Okay, architect, architect. Hypocrite, we're dropping the O in the middle and just writing hypocrite. Decimal, dropping the I, decimal. Typical, typical. Solitude, solitude. Uniform, uniform. Autograph, autograph. Popular, dropping the U, popular. Ridicule, ridicule. Analyze, analyze. Decorator, so we're dropping that O and sticking to decorator. Okay. Interior. So we're writing interior. Okay, dropping the I there. Hesitate, hesitate. Stamina, stamina. Marathon, marathon. Celebrate, celebrate. Negative, negative. Recipe, recipe. Now, there's two choices for recipe. You can either write it as R-E-S, come back for P-A-E, or you can write it as R-E-S, come back for P long E. Either one works. Recipe with a long E or come back for P-A-E. All right, then we've got excellent, excellent, maximize, maximize. So that is the medial vowel, 30 and 30.1. 30.2 are practice sentences that focus on the medial vowel. Okay. And again, these words are all in 30.1. Okay. So you shouldn't have any surprises. If there's a few things I'm going to point out to you, just as reminders. If you look at line 3, first sentence, it says circulate in the crowd. Crowd is going to be written as K-R-O-U-D. That's an ow sound. Okay, line 4, second sentence. The storm isolated the group. Group is written with a long U, GR long UP. Line 9, first sentence, hire an interior decorator. Now I want you to look at decorator. We're going to write that as DEK. Come back for R long A. Come back for T long OR. I want to make sure that's in the first page as well. The reason why we don't want you writing it as R long AT and then coming back for long OR is because the software will confuse that and it conflicts with decorate or. So if I were to have a sentence that were to say, would you like to decorate or do something else? It would conflict with that. So that's why we write it as decorator. So keep the T with the tor in this instance. Most of the time, it doesn't matter where you put that, as it's wherever you hear the break. But in this case, you want to keep the T with the or so it doesn't conflict. Line 10, second sentence. It says, "Is that typical of the desert?" We want to phrase "is that." We can phrase "is that." Initial S-T-H-A. Is that? Okay, very important. All right, desert. That's going to be written as D-E-Z. Come back for E-R-T. Okay, I'm going to show you something here. Okay, let's see. That's not what I want. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, for some reason, it's not getting me there, and that's okay. I can explain it to you. I want to make sure that you don't get desert and desert mixed up. Okay, so desert is going to be written as D-E-Z, come back for E-R-T. Dessert, like did you have your dessert tonight after dinner, is written as D long E, so it doesn't conflict with did he, and then come back for S-E-R-T. So that's the difference between the two, desert and desert. Okay, all right. Line 11, this is our annual benefit. There's 3 ways that you can write annual. You can either write it as, I'll point to it on the board. You can either write it as A-N, come back for long U-L, or you can write it as A-N, come back for Y-U-L, or you can write it as A-N, come back for Y, long U-L. So there's 3 ways that you can write that. Okay, you can pick which one you like. Looking at line 12, first sentence, use the Dewey Decimal System. Dewey, D long U, come back for A-E. We don't have to flag it because it's more than one stroke. Next sentence over, do you understand the decimal? Don't forget, understand is a brief, U-N-D-Z. Okay, and I really encourage you, especially now that we're in lesson 30, more than ever, you're going to need to go back, all the way back to Theory 1, and go over and review your briefs and phrases. I can't stress that enough because now your head is so full of phrases and briefs that you need to go back and review all of them so you don't forget any of those, okay? And also with this lesson, don't forget, if it helps, go through and underline all your phrases before you start your lesson. That will help to kind of have it stand out for you when you go to write the lesson so you don't overlook anything that you could possibly phrase. All right, everything else on that page looks good. Looking over at 30.2, practice sentences are continued. Let's look at line 20. It says, order the vegetable soup. We don't say veg table, right? So we're going to keep that as a short A. So we're going to write that as V-E, final J, veg, come back for T-A-B-L, short A. It's vegetable, not veg table. For some reason, a lot of people like to write that as a long A. We're going to drop the E in the middle, so we're just writing vegetable. Okay, and it's a short A. Line 25, second sentence, the recipe was not easy to follow. Was is going to be W-A-Z. Don't write it with an S. Okay. Let's see. Last sentence, line 26. The restaurant closed at 9. Don't forget our time figures. Okay, it's been a while since we covered that, but 9 is going to be initial K, final 9, so that we tell our software we need the colon 00. And again, go through and practice your time figures. Practice your stitching, everything. It's been a while, so you don't want to forget any of that. Review it if you need to, which I'm sure you do. I know I did, and I still review all of my my things that I learned in theory. You want to always go over that. Okay, do the alphabet. Do your stitching and your initials. Go through your time figures, all your briefs and phrases. All right, we'll just make you a stronger writer. Now, 30.3, we've got new briefs. The first one is reply. And notice it's a short I, P-L-E-U, which is the short I. That's why I put EU. I didn't want to just put an I there because I didn't want you to get confused and think it was a long I. Okay, so it's P-L-E-U, which is the short I. Amount, A-M-T. Argue, A-R-G. Second, S-E-K-D. Subject, S-U-B-T. Avenue, A-F-B, which is our V. Present, P-R-E-N-T. Were you present today? Or I got a present for my birthday. And then presence, her presence was known. P-R-E-N-S, presence. Then we have beautiful, B-long-U-F-L, beautiful, kind of like a squeeze. Practice is P-R-A, pra. Practical is P-R-A, final K, practical. So don't get those two mixed up. Practice is pra, practical is prac. Then we've got fingerprint, initial F, final P, fingerprint. Over on 30.4, we have a brief drill. So you want to separate those with commas. 30.5, practice sentences using our new, focusing on our new briefs. Let's look at line 1, second sentence over. It says reply before September 21st. So don't forget your ordinals. 21st, you're going to hit the 2, then you're going to come back for the 1E together, showing that they said the ST, 21st. You leave off that E, that's as if they were to say reply before September 21. And they didn't say that. They said 21st. So you have to use your E, showing they said the ST, okay? All right, line 5, can we discuss the subject? Again, discuss, that's a brief from the past. So discuss is written as S-K-U-S. Again, just a reminder. Let's see. Oh, let's back up. Line 4, second sentence over. The bill amounted to $400. Going to write 4. Come back for H-U-N. And come back for D-Z. Okay, $400. Down at the very last sentence, line 16, second sentence, it says the motion was seconded. So we know the brief for second, which is S-E-K-D, second. And then we've got seconded. So then you have to come back again for the final D. 20.5 continues on the next page. Line 17, he lives at 412 West Oak Avenue. 412, you're going to strike your 4, then you're going to come back for the 1, 2 together because you can. West is capitalized, so we're going to write it as W, flag, E-F-T. Oak. Oak is going to be written as long O with the flag, final K. Avenue. Now, because avenue is capitalized here, it's a particular avenue, we're going to flag it A, flag, F-B, because it's a particular street. particular avenue. Now, if I were to say, I walked along the avenue, no, we just write it as AFB. Okay, Lemon Avenue. Again, we don't have to flag lemon because it's 2 strokes, but avenue it's a particular avenue. It belongs to lemon, so we're going to flag that one. Line 18, second sentence, the parade will be on Peach Avenue. Peach, P-A-E, flag, F-P. Again, we have to flag it to tell our software we're talking about a proper noun. So we want it capitalized. Okay, avenue again, it's a particular avenue, so you want to flag it. Down in line 20, Jim has practically retired. Jim needs to be flagged. Let's talk about practically. So we just learned our brief for practical, P-R-A-K. So then we've got practically. So you have the choice. You can either write it as P-R-A-K, come back for L-A-E, or P-R-A-K, come back just for A-E. It's up to you. Okay. Let's back up to, or excuse me, no, go down to the next line, line 21. We noted the presence of Mr. Jones. Now, Jones is not plural. The S is part of the last name, so we're not going to come back for the final Z. Some people hear Jones with a Z, some people hear Jones with an S. It depends on what you hear. You can either use the final S or the final Z, but no matter what, you're going to write it as initial J, long O, with the flag, and either S or Z, but it's got to be flagged because it's 1 syllable. Okay, and you don't come back for that final Z because it's not plural. The S is part of the word, kind of like James. All right, everything else there looks good. Again, if you ever have any questions, please let me know. Moving on over to 30.6, we're going to cover consonant compounds. And today our consonant compounds are going to be final RL and final RJ words. Okay, well, the sound is RJ. It's really spelled RGE, but we're using our RJ for those words. Okay, and so this is a little tricky. Some of these words are final RL, some are final RJ. So practice that before you start your homework. Final RL, final RJ, final RL. Notice when you do the final RL, you have to keep that middle finger up. Otherwise, it's going to hit the P. You got to keep it up. So practice it. RL, RJ, RL, RJ, and go back and forth until you feel like you're automatically doing it without having to think about it. Okay. So the first word we have is furl, F-U-R-L. Hurl, H-U-R-L. Swirl, S-W-I-R-L. Curl, K-U-R-L. Snarl, S-N-A-R-L. Whirl, W-H-I-R-L. Gnarl, it's a silent G, so we're going to write it as N-A-R-L. Twirl, T-W-I-R-L. Girl, initial G-I-R-L. Whirl. Now, whirl is like a pattern of spirals or circles. You can either write it with a long O or just keep it with an O and not have it as a long O. It just depends on how you say it. Some people say whirl, some people say whirl. So if you feel like it's a long O, write it with a long O. If you feel like it's a short O, then you're going to write it with a short O. So W-H, long O or short O, R-L, whirl. Okay. Unfurl, U-N, come back for F-U-R-L. Uncurl, U-N, come back for K-U-R-L. Pearl, P-A-E-R-L. Churl, that's an implied or a mean person. K-H-U-R-L, we're borrowing the K for the C. Skirl, that's a shrill sound. S-K-I-R-L. Knurl, again, silent K, so we're going to write it as N-U-R-L. Knurl. Carl, that's a peasant. K-A-R-L, unless they use it as somebody's name, then you would flag it. Earl, A-E-R-L. Marl, that's soil consisting of clay and lime. Marl, M-A-R-L. Jarl, it's a Danish chef. Jarl, J-A-R-L. You might say, when are we ever going to hear these words? But I guarantee you, if you work in court or do depositions, you are going to hear these off-the-wall words at one point or another. So then you'll be happy that you learned how to write them. All right, dirge. Let's look at the final RJ words. Dirge, D-I-R, final J. Large, L-A-R-J. Barge, B-A-R-J. Charge, K-H-A-R, final J. Purge, P-U-R, final J. So if somebody said, I watched The Purge, you would know how to write it. And then you would flag it because it's the name of a movie. Okay, Marge. Now this is somebody's name, so we're going to flag it. And we have to use the tapping method with this because our fingers are on everything. M-A-R-J, and then we have to tap. So you're going to either lift up your index finger from this side, the left side, or the right side. It's up to you. When I do that one, I kind of tend to use my left. M-A-R-J. I like to just lift it up from the H here and go over here and then lift up. So that's up to you what side you want to use, but that definitely is one of those words that you have to tap. Okay, surge, S-U-R-J. Urge, U-R, final J. Enlarge, E-N, come back for L-A-R-J. Merge, M-E-R-J. Merger, M-E-R-J, come back for E-R. Forge, F long O-R-J. Surge, S-E-R-J. So even though these words are spelled with a G, they have a J sound, so we use the final J. Sarge, that's going to have a flag there because it's capitalized. S-A with the flag, final R-J. Submerge, S-U-B, come back for M-E-R-J. Engorge, splurge. Diverge, D long I, come back for V-E-R-J. Verge, V-E-R-J. And then we have emerge, long E, so it doesn't conflict with he. Come back for M-E-R-J. Okay. All right. Let's look at our next section. These are going to be consonant compounds in sentences. Okay. All right. .7. Again, the first sentence says the girl had a Shetland pony. We don't have to flag Shetland because it's 2 strokes. Okay. Let's look at line 3. It says the girl is a fine gymnast. So you're going to write that as J-I-M, come back for N-A-F-T, borrowing the F to make our S. Okay. And then if you look at line 4, first sentence, you can see the fingerprint whirl. Don't forget our new brief for fingerprint, initial F, final P. Down in line 15, did you ask Marge to the prom? Marge is going to be flagged. Line 16, his men all called him Sarge, and you're going to flag Sarge. Okay. All right, so that is the end of lesson 30. Now we're going to cover the Q&A that goes along with lesson 30. All right, now with this Q&A, I want you to write this in steno, and then you're going to submit it with your homework. So after you do your handouts 3 times, then I want you to do this Q&A handout number 4 1 time. Okay, it's going to have let's go over this again, okay? So our question and answer. Question bank is the S-T-K-P-W-H-R. Answer, F-R-P-B-L-G-T-S. Okay? And I'm going to be reading this to you on the whiteboard just for practice. So you get used to the dictation, but when you do the homework, you're going to print this out, physically look at it, and you're going to write exactly what you see. Now, I want to go over a couple things before I dictate this to you. Let's look at the Q&A handout number 4. It says, question, how old are you, Pam? And you would flag that because it's somebody's proper name. Now, if you're in speeds and you forget to flag a proper name because you are in such a hurry, it's okay. I would rather you get the words down and the sign changes, and you will have 2 hours to go back and edit a test. So that is when you can go in and change Pam to a capital P if you didn't have time. So once you get into speeds, that's going to be your main focus, getting the words down and getting the sign changes. Okay. All right. So let's look at, I want to look at line 7. It says, question, where were you at 4 p.m. on May 22nd, 2018? Now, because you're physically looking at this paper, I want it to be perfect because you have the time to make it perfect. Once you get into speeds, you may not have time to write a comma after May 22nd, comma, and that's okay. You would add the comma in the edit mode when you're editing your test, okay? Same with the time frame 4. Let's say I were to strike the 4 and I forgot to do my 4K. If that were a test, it's okay. Just tell yourself, I'm going to fix it when I get in the edit mode. I'm going to know that's a time frame, so I've got to add the :00, okay? But right now that you're in theory, I want it to be perfect because you're looking at it and you have time to make it perfect, okay? All right. So it says here in line 7, where were you at 4 p.m. on May 22nd, comma, you're going to strike your comma because there's a comma here, 2018. All right, now it says 22nd, so you're going to use your ordinal to come back for 2E, showing that we said 22nd, not May 22. If I were to say May 22, you wouldn't hit the E. Okay, now let's talk about dashes. This is new. Let's look at line 8. Answer, I was walking home from school, period. Again, because you're physically looking at this for homework, you're going to strike the period. When you are in speeds or you're listening to me dictate, you may not put a period because you're focusing on just getting the words, and that's okay, all right? I don't want you to I don't want it to affect your speed because you're so worried about putting in the correct punctuation, okay? All right. It says, I was walking home from school, period. I had stopped at the mall with some friends, comma, and it was getting later than I thought, period. That is when, and then she gets cut off. The question, the attorney goes in and asks a question. When that happens, you can use your dashes. The way we write our dashes on our machine is O-E, O-E. We strike it twice. With our thumbs, we strike O-E, O-E twice. That is the only punctuation that we use at the end of a sentence in Q&A. The only type of punctuation is when they get cut off. Okay, so you can do that. Now, if you're in speeds and you're taking a test and you don't have time to do your dashes, don't worry about it. You can put in the dashes during the test. If you notice on this sheet, the dashes have 2 lines, like the minus signs, 2 lines, not just one. So in court reporting, we use 2 lines. We don't use 1. Okay, make sure you use 2, just like this. Okay, so that is when, and notice there's a space and then a line together. There's no spaces in between the 2 lines. So she gets cut off, and that tells us, oh, that person got cut off. Very important, okay? Now the question, the attorney jumps in and says, you were at the mall with some friends, and cutting people off is very common. It happens all the time. I think it happens more than we realize. So that's going to happen a lot. Okay, so you're going to get used to using the O-E, O-E. All right. Answer, yes, comma, I was. Now notice that there's no dashes before yes, I was, because she is now referring to his new question that he posed to her. So she kind of let go of the other answer. but I want to give you a scenario. Let's say, looking at line 10, she were to say, that is when dashes, she gets cut off. He says, you were at the mall with some friends. Let's say she doesn't answer what he's even asking and she continues on with her answer. Then you would start off that sentence with dashes. A line, no spaces, line, then a space. I went to see them. So if it flows in line 10, if she were to say that is when, and then down in line 12, let's say she were to finish by saying that is when I went to see them, you're going to do dashes to show that she is finishing that sentence that she had started up at the top. Okay, that's when we use those dashes for the answer, when they're still answering what they had just asked. And the same goes with the question. If there's a question and an attorney were to say, where were you? And he gets cut off. So you're going to use your dashes. And then let's say the witness says, I'm so tired today. And then the attorney comes in and says, born. Well, born goes goes with that question at the top. Where were you born? So you would use dashes after where were you, and then coming into his question again, you would use dashes, space. So you use two dashes, space, born, lowercase, because it's continuing the sentence. Okay. All right. So I like this handout because it gives you an example, some dashes. It happens a lot. All right. Again, when you're looking at this and doing the homework, I want you to put in all the internal punctuation. I don't want you to put ending punctuation except for the dashes, and put your internal punctuation in. But again, when you're in speeds, it's going to be different. You're not going to have time a lot of the times to get all those commas and periods and things like that, and it's okay. It's all right. All right. And let's see here. Everything else there looks good. So there's nothing else I really want to explain to you. So now I'm going to read to you the Q&A so you get some dictation practice, because that is so different from just physically looking at a sheet of paper. There's the different ways that you need to get used to writing on your machine. One way is reading it, and the other way is hearing it by audio, by somebody dictating it to you. So today we're going to pretend like this is defense questioning, okay? So you're going to see this, okay? And even though it's defense, we're still signing him in as STKPWHR. That's the question, even though it's defense, okay? Doesn't matter if it's plaintiff or defense, we're still showing it's a question. Now, in our next lesson, starting with lesson 31, we're going to learn 4-voice. So this is our last day with 2-voice, okay? All right, we're going to learn how to identify our attorneys. All right, so we're going to start with question. Today I'm not going to say answer. I'm just going to light it up, and I want you to be watching the screen and watching the lights. Don't look down, because don't look at your hands, because you might miss a sign change, okay? All right, here we go. How old are you, Pam? I am 17 years old. Do you go to school? Yes. What grade are you in? I am in grade 12. Where were you at 4 p.m. on May 22nd, 2018? I was walking home from school. I had stopped at the mall with some friends, and it was getting later than I thought. That is when you were at the mall with some friends. Yes, I was. Were you with these friends when you walked out of the mall? No. I looked at my phone and saw it was closer to 4:15 than I had thought. I am to be home no later than 4:15. My mom is very strict about that. I told the girl closest to me that I had to get going. Then I just walked out of the store. Did you start home then? No, I didn't. I planned to, but I met a friend out in the parking lot, and we started talking. We didn't talk long because I knew I had to get home. What time was it when you started to walk home? Just before 4 o'clock. That would be just enough time for me to get home by 4:15. What route did you take home? Well, it was getting later and later. So I took the shortest route I knew. It is a bike trail. Had you been on this bike trail before? Yes, quite a few times. I thought it would be safe. In fact, I didn't even think about it because I had been on the trail with friends many times before. All right. Now, obviously, the last word of the Q&A, you can throw in your period because that's the end of it. So again, there was one long paragraph there, and don't worry. When you're listening to the dictation, don't worry so much about the punctuation. Okay, don't let that stop you from getting the words and the sign changes, okay? You're always going to be able to go back and add your punctuation. Even though we want to be perfect and we want it to look as nice as possible right now when we're in speed building, that's sometimes difficult because our main focus should be getting the sign changes and the words. And then when you master that speed, then you can focus on adding your punctuation as you listen to the dictation. Okay, so that's the Q&A handout for it. That was rough for you. If it was a challenge, go back and listen to it again and practice it over and over again until you feel like you've got it down. Okay, I know for some of you, it might be an endurance thing. Maybe you noticed after a few minutes of it, you started getting fatigued and your mind started wandering off to other things. I encourage you just to go into a quiet room when you focus on the Q&A and be in a quiet room. Put your phone on silent. You don't want any distractions. Okay, so go back and practice that. And then for homework, you're going to physically look at it and write it, and then just turn in your notes, your steno notes with your homework from the handouts. Okay, so that is the end of Lesson 30, and I will see you in the readback portion of Lesson 30 pretty soon. Have a great day.